Welcome to Knafs Knews. I'm Ben.
I'm Austin.
And today we are doing the pocket knife version of the Google Autocomplete interview.
We're traveling inside the human body to figure out if this man swallowed a Lander 6.
And we'll be taking a look at this hatchet underneath this microscope. It's the first time we're doing this kind of science on Knafs Knews. Let's go!
Before we answer these burning questions about pocket knives, let's talk about the newsletter. Subscribe to our newsletter where we give away a knife every single week. Just by being a subscriber, you're entered to win. Go to knafs.com/newsletter to sign up. Last week's winner was Trevor W. from Taylorsville, Utah.
Ooh, a local.
Local boy.
I like it when a local
Congrats.
wins. That's fun. Okay, Austin, we've had fun here.
Let's go.
You have no idea what's under these sheets.
I've seen none of these. None of the
I think
questions,
this is
none
a
of the
delight.
answers.
So the way this works, if you're watching at home, is Google, when you type into Google, it auto-completes the most common questions around a thing. So if you type in our pocket knives, Google will come up with 5 or 6 suggestions underneath thinking, oh, we'll get them to the answer faster.
Right.
Well, some of these are kind of fun and some are kind of absurd. So should we rock and roll into this?
Let's do it.
Okay, here's your first one.
Oh.
Are pocket knives allowed on planes?
Interesting. What a first one.
Yeah, it is the first one.
Yeah.
What's the answer, Austin?
The answer is an easy no.
The answer is it depends.
Sure. The
So
materials,
I think
is
the next
that-
question is related.
Okay.
Are pocket knives allowed in checked baggage?
That one's an easy yes.
Okay, so this is actually kind of funny because a lot of times people will be like, we'll be at shows or traveling, and people will be like, how'd you get your knives here?
Yeah.
We're like, on the plane?
Yeah.
And they're like, thought you couldn't take knives on planes.
Yeah.
And the answer is you absolutely can in your checked baggage.
I've never done it, but I think you can even take a gun in a checked bag.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. So
There's a procedure you got to do it with TSA at your baggage check, but in your checked bag, you can take a firearm into the plane. Now, here's the interesting thing to me is I tried to take a knife on a plane once on accident. It had a harmonica on it, and I definitely got stopped by TSA.
Interesting.
However, I have a friend just 2-3 weeks ago was flying from Salt Lake to somewhere, flew with his Lander 1 in his pocket.
Whoa.
All the way there, and he got it was in like a pants pocket in his
Carry-on.
carry-on, and he gets all the way there, and he realizes that he flew with it.
Wow.
And he's like, well, on the way back, I'd better declare it. So he declares it to the TSA agent, and they're like, you can ship it home.
Right.
And so he ships it home. It took 3 weeks to get there. I don't know if the timeline's right there, but you get the idea.
That's a full-size knife, basically. I mean,
is.
it's not like a little teeny thing or something that would be easily missed, I would say.
Correct. But I also have another friend. She flew with a stiletto, like a 4-inch automatic stiletto. She worked at Blade HQ. She received it at Blade Show.
No way.
Stuck it in her purse, forgot it was there, got on the airplane, and she realized, like, that's in my bag.
Yeah.
So stuff happens.
It
so
happens.
can you? The answer is depends.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
What's our next one here, Austin?
Yeah, we got burning question
Our
number 3
pocket
here.
knives. Hold on.
Oh, the weight is killing me. Dangerous and considered weapons. Oh, a double. That's a great question as well. What's your perspective on that?
Okay. I always think pocket knives are tools.
Yes.
Now, a tool can be used also as a weapon. It can be used as a tool or weapon. Take
Right.
Mr. Hatchet here. Is this a tool or a weapon?
Yeah, I mean, feels like a tool to me.
Feels like a tool to me.
Yeah.
Could it be a weapon? Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think there are enough horror movies out there to confirm it could be a weapon.
It's like a childhood rhyme about Lizzie Borden or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but creepy stuff, yes, could
Yeah.
be a weapon. I think in the same way, pocket knives can be weapons.
Yeah.
I do not consider them weapons personally, but they can be.
I think there's a perspective out there, kind of as you're laying out, which is like anything that you want to be a weapon could be a weapon, right?
Yes.
You pick up a rock off the ground. If you want to hurt someone with that, you could utilize that as a weapon. I'm curious about the dangerous part.
Yeah.
What do you think about dangerous as well? I'll give you my quick perspective.
go
I
ahead.
would say that like anything sharp is absolutely dangerous. Like dangerous doesn't mean that it's like something's gonna happen to you. That there's not imminent danger there, but it's something to be thoughtful of as you're handling it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got scars here and scars here on my hand that say knives are dangerous. I've got a scar on my forehead. In fact, it's probably time it's a scar-anniversary here.
It is.
If you're not familiar with this story, I ran a motorcycle into a wall last year in Chattanooga, Tennessee at Big Idea Design. Is a mini bike dangerous?
Right.
Yes,
I would
you should
say
wear
so.
a helmet.
Yeah.
Is a pocket knife dangerous? Yes, you should exercise caution. Is driving a car dangerous? Yes.
Absolutely.
And there are rules and procedures that you should use in order to safely employ those things.
Yeah.
So I think my answer is, they are. They're sharp, right? Like you don't hand a kid a knife and be like, run, kid. You know, like
point.
that's not how these things work. So I would say yes. Are they considered weapons? In a lot of cases, yeah. When you go to federal buildings, usually they are classified under the weapons side of the entire thing. So
That's true.
I think that's kind of like a self-explanatory thing, but I also think it's an interesting conversation.
People are Googling it.
They're Googling it.
People want to know. We can help.
Okay, next one, Austin.
Let's go.
As I sit here and struggle to get
This
these
one
off.
is, why are knives so expensive in CSGO?
That was a question, man.
Let's go. Do you know what CSGO is?
I think it's a video game.
It is a video game. It's a very old, like, first-person shooter video.
Okay.
Yes.
And I think you can buy knives in the game,
So
skins and things.
One of the big things is I think there's probably like a set number of weapons and knives and stuff like that, but you can get skins. And skins can be very valuable, very rare in that game specifically.
How much does a knife in CSGO cost? Do you have any idea?
No clue.
Is this real money or is this fake money?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where you buy digital money to then purchase it. But I think that like the most rare ones will be in the maybe even tens of thousands of dollars for the skin.
In real money?
Yes, because there's only like 1 or 5 out there in the world or something like that. So
wow.
Yeah, similar to like any regular collection, you know, baseball cards or something like that. Just like the more rare it is, the more desirable it is.
Interesting. Okay,
Yes.
I am flabbergasted. All my gasses are flabberds.
They're flabbered.
Is that how that saying goes?
I think it is. Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes people will be like, why are knives so expensive, right?
Yeah.
Like you look at like a Lander 2 being 125, 130 plus dollars.
Yep.
It's materials, it's the R&D to get there, it's all of those things.
Yeah.
Why are I'm still not convinced. Why is it so expensive?
Digital
Because
goods is it's an interesting thing, right? Because like as soon as you turn off your computer, you have no access to that anymore.
You have nothing.
Right? If you were ever locked out of your account, that thing is essentially gone forever.
If the power's out, you no longer have that skin.
You can't enjoy it anymore. So
I disagree with those being so expensive.
Different mindset for sure.
I like it.
Yeah.
What's our in between here? Did you like that?
That was way fun. We are just wrapping up a sidewalk sale that's actually happening in the future from right now. So we've got some photos to roll in from that.
Roll the photos.
Yeah.
If nobody came, there will be no photos.
No photos.
But hopefully they came. And if you did come to the sidewalk sale and hung out with us, thanks for doing it. It's something we like to do every year to get rid of our blemished knives that didn't pass QC but are still safe.
Yep.
We like to get rid of them there. And thanks to everyone for coming.
Yeah. Hopefully the cookies were good.
I know. Hopefully the cookies were good. Where are they coming from this year?
Harmon's.
Yes.
Local grocer.
How long did you work at Harmon's?
I think it was something like 7 years to the day.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was my first job. I started as a cart pusher and bagger there, and eventually left as like part of their accounting team and a customer service manager.
That's cool. Yeah. I like it.
Super fun.
Back to the questions, the burning questions from the Google machine. We're on to do knives.
Do knives.
Let's peel this one back here.
Let's see. This is a longer one here. Dole in the dishwasher. All right.
Dole in the dishwasher.
Interesting.
Austin, you weren't prepped for this.
Something I've never thought of. I mean, my first thought would be probably not, because it's mostly just water that's hitting them. But if they're like maybe laying on your rack, I could see where some of that could dull it.
So I know a guy up in Oregon named Tom Veff. He's an edgeologist.
Oh.
The world's only edgeologist.
Is this Veff serrations?
Of Veff serrations, in
Yes.
fact. Let's talk about that briefly,
Yes.
because that is a Veff serration right there on this CRKT M16. So this is a guy that spends a lot of time with sharpening and kitchen knives and all of that. He is vehemently opposed to putting your knives in the dishwasher. And the reason for that is exactly what you're saying. It's sitting there rubbing against, like, a dishwasher is designed to like move everything around.
Right.
Right? And so his thing is like, keep them out of the dishwasher, keep them out of the silverware rack, because they're going to sit there and jostle around. Anytime a knife edge is jostling around against other things, it is going to dull. Additionally, you're sitting there getting a whole bunch of rust, potential for rust, because it's sitting there wet for an hour or so.
That's the part
And
I don't
drying.
love, but yes, totally makes sense.
Yes, they do, is the answer.
Who thought we'd be talking about dishwashers on Knafs at Night?
We've never talked about
Not
dishwashers.
I. Yeah.
Okay, next up. Do knives wear out?
Oh, interesting question.
Yeah. What's your answer to that one, Austin?
I would say that's another depends. I would say
I like that answer.
I would say that it is definitely possible that a knife could wear out, but it would most likely, in my opinion, be from like hard use, sharpening, probably over sharpening to a point where then it is no longer usable.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Have you ever finished a tube of chapstick?
Not a tube of chapstick, no.
Why not?
I probably lose it before
I think that knives fall into the chapstick category.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't think a knife has ever worn out because it gets lost before it wears out. But let's look at this one. This one is from my collection. I don't know where it came from. I was going through my childhood things the other day, and this is probably as close to a knife wearing out as I've ever seen. So this is a traditional knife, a 3-bladed jack, perhaps. Guys,
I'm so bad.
We got on the internet probably 10 years ago.
Oh man.
We talked about traditional knives, and then the internet roasted us.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've learned much more about traditional knives since then.
Right, but people were not very happy with our modern knife knowledge.
Is this a Texas toothpick? Is this we'll let the comments roast us again.
It might be now in its sharpened state, how skinny that
know.
is. Would you say that, like, how much of these blades are gone? Like roughly half of some of them in terms of...
That one looks like maybe a quarter has been sharpened away. This one probably started as a bit of like a Texas toothpick-ish.
Okay.
So maybe I don't know.
Yeah, hard to say. We don't know, yeah.
But I think at some point you would have just almost a toothpick sitting there that you would be able to continue using. But so yes, the answer is they do wear out, but I think that they apply to the tube of chapstick.
I would agree that like 99 out of 100 worn out or lost knives are actually just not lost knives, you know, like, that it is super. It probably takes generations to wear out a full blade of a knife.
Correct.
Yeah.
And granted, like I've seen knives like left in salt water that absolutely have been worn out because they've corroded, they've rusted.
Yeah.
But the reality is if you're taking a knife blade, like you look at Lander 1, this is one with Mexican blanket scales we made a long time ago. You can't buy them anymore. But if you were to sharpen that, like how many times would you have to sharpen that blade to get it to absolutely unusable?
Seriously.
Granted, it's going to get thicker and thicker behind the edge, but it's going to take a long time. I don't know that most people would be able to actually wear out a knife.
It'd be pretty rare.
Is my thought.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, folks. This may not be a Texas toothpick either.
They will let us know, I think.
They will.
We'll see if this one ends up on a forum somewhere.
Next up, how do knives get dull?
Get dull. I was actually going to talk about this earlier, so I'm excited to talk about this.
Tell us more.
I think the pretty standard principle is that whatever the harder thing is the thing that will not wear. So if you're taking, I don't know, say a diamond and a piece of wood and you're rubbing them together, the wood is much softer than the diamond. And so the diamond is not as affected. There are other factors, like maybe the wood has some crazy hard, substance in it or something like that that may cause some wear there. But typically, if you just compare the two substances together, if that's a knife blade and some butter or something like that, the harder thing always wins.
Yeah. And just abrasive, right? Like you think about the pads of your vehicle, the brake pads. As you push those against the calipers, all of this, I guess they're not pushed against calipers. This is where my knowledge just fell off.
Rotors.
Big fat
The
cliff.
rotors.
Jamie, yes.
Yes, the rotors.
The rotors.
Yes. I had to think about it.
I changed my brakes one time, and I said, I will now pay somebody else to do this. I know it's not hard, but time and energy.
It takes a long time.
Clearly, we don't know anything about rotors in cars, but you get the idea. When two pieces of metal push against each other, they wear out.
They can cause wear. Yep.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yes. Oh, man. We could spend a lot of time on that.
Jamie's rolling his eyes at us. That's great.
Let's keep going.
All right, we're on to the next question. Why are knives serrated?
Serrated. Oh my gosh, great question. This is a perfect one for us because we love serrations.
I hate serrations, man. Even VEF serrations,
I know.
they're great. They work incredibly well for fibrous materials.
People really love the VEF serration, but they always say really hard to sharpen.
They are hard to sharpen. You can actually sharpen them with you just take a dowel.
Ceramic rod of some sort.
And you just sharpen them that way. Here's the deal. Serrations on knives are used for edge longevity, because you are not using them in the same way. Basically, you're adding a blade for every little piece.
Right.
So for fibrous materials, if you're cutting duct tape all day long, great. That'll be awesome for serrations.
Yep.
But honestly, I would prefer to just sharpen my knife than have to deal with serrations because they are good at fibers. They're not good at much else.
Yeah, it's a similar thought process with like saws, right? If you have a very fine-tooth saw, you would probably cut something that would be a little smoother, a little easier to cut. If you have a heavy, thick tooth saw, you're gonna take off a lot of material, kind of chip out chunks with that.
Yep.
So it's made for busting through something more efficiently, something that's hard and coarse and all of that stuff.
One of my least favorite things is when scouts show up to camp and they show up with a partially serrated knife and they're like, let's whittle. And I just kind of like deep sigh because it is not very good to whittle with a partially serrated knife because when you whittle, you use this part of your knife a lot, right in that belly.
The belly.
And that's where they stick the serrations.
Yep.
And if you're trying to whittle with like the last inch of the tip, no good.
Yeah, that's a hard
bueno.
part. So you're just leaving lines in your
correct
piece of wood or whatever.
And we're on to the Moon Crew moment. What have we got, Austin?
Yeah, let's pull it up. So this week we've got some really fun stuff. The first one is from Jonathan Burton, who bought a Lander 6 for $6 from us at Blade
JB.
Show. And he's been using it hard. So he said he's been doing some feather sticking with it, cutting some notches into a bow drill and stuff like that. And he's pretty impressed with the performance.
I was stoked about that.
Yeah.
We kind of made this as this knife that could just kind of hang out on your keychain. Yeah. And obviously we tested it, we played with it, that sort of thing. But to have Jonathan Burton, who does like survival training, bushcraft training and stuff, be like, this is actually really good.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that makes me happy.
He's definitely a knife guy, so big compliments from him.
Yep.
Really excited about that.
Yep, that was cool.
Next up is from Brian Thurston here. He has a question, random, possibly dumb question. Why is it called a Lander?
It is called a Lander because I was driving through Lander, Wyoming, small little town, and I was like, Lander, that's an interesting name for a knife.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, do you name it after a small town in Wyoming or do you craft a story around it?
Yeah.
And I said, let's craft a story around it. And that's where we started using NASA imagery. All of that imagery from NASA of the moon landing and that sort of thing is open source Creative Commons. Interesting side story, since you're this deep in the video, the official name of Knafs is Rocket Ship Wrench.
Yeah.
And that was there's a deeper story to that, but that is the official name of the business.
Yeah.
We do business as Knafs. Yep. But the reason I named it that is I've always had a fascination with space. I think it's a great adventure, and that idea of space applied really nicely to the Lander series.
Made sense.
That's why.
Right on. Love that answer. Never would have guessed a town in Wyoming.
Yeah, Lander, Wyoming. In fact, I think I have a picture of me in front of the Lander, Wyoming sign holding a Lander.
Pretty
if
cool.
we can find that one, we'll put it in.
Right on. Last one here is from Chris Sands. He said he was introduced to the world of Knafs with the Lander 4 Kickstarter, and he's got a picture here of his Landana, which came with the Lander 4 Kickstarter, and how his collection now and how it has grown. He has been putting in the work.
I like the Pete's Pirate Life in there, the Ultim scales.
The Ultim scales. He's got a black Lulu, it looks like, in there, a bougie banter, so he's been going after it.
He is deep sea diving into the line, not just overboard. I love it.
That's right. All right. Next up, should we check out some mail, some comments?
Ooh, yeah. Do you want to start with the X-ray? Because this was part of the mail. This was from Rich.
My favorite part.
Rich stopped by the store last week with this image, and he's like, I just got an X-ray on my back, and the doctor was like, hey, did you swallow a knife?
Oh, man.
And turns out he had left the Lander 6 in his pocket.
That's amazing.
For his X-ray.
Oh,
Rich, I'm glad. I mean, what do X-rays do to knives?
Yeah, that's my question. Is like, I guess I'm glad he didn't get hurt or no one else got hurt. I don't really know how X-rays work.
I don't know how they work either.
Yeah.
I feel like that we've gone way out of our depth on the science.
Way too sciencey.
Anyway, I thought that was super cool. And then Rich also dropped off a knife to me, which I thought was super cool. This is an Ibex.
Ibex.
Jamie, pronounce for me. Ibex. I feel like Jamie is our Jamie.
He's very Jamie, which we love it.
This is Ibex. So Rich went to Solingen, and he brought me back this knife with a ring lock. I think that's what this is called. In fact, actually, I don't know what it's called.
Clasp block?
It is called a clasp block. Look at this. Whoa. Let me break it. In the original poster, when I was designing it, I had an extra space. I needed an additional lock type. And I said, This one exists. We'll throw it on there. So this is a class block. It is the only class block I own. I don't own any others.
Yeah,
So
I actually met Rich in the storefront probably the week before he dropped this off for you, and he was telling me about his trip and all of that good stuff. And we were standing there like people hadn't really heard of this ring lock class block thing, and I was like, I think I've seen it on an old Cold Steel, and then happened to be looking at the poster and was like, and it's on the knife poster.
Yeah, it's definitely a two-hander. There's no doubt that this is a two-handed opening.
This is a very old style of knife. Like these have been
Two-handed
around a long time.
Can you one-handed close?
Ooh.
You can almost
You
almost
can.
cut your hand. Are they dangerous?
But knives are dangerous.
We've established
yes,
that.
Yes.
Fantastic. Also in Mailbox this week.
Yeah, what else we got?
Kind of fun. I like to do Kickstarters and I like to back Kickstarters. And our friends at Grim Workshop, Jordan and crew, came out with this one. This is kind of fun. A little fire kit. So this comes with matches as well as a little fire starter and a whole bunch of fibers to start fires with. So I thought that was kind of fun. And then a sewing repair kit as well. Oh, cool. They do a ton of like laser cuttings.
I love that thing that they do, the pick and pull little laser cut parts. That's so cool.
I thought this piece was really interesting too. This is designed to like wrap your thread or duct tape, whatever, just wrapped around there. My only complaint with that, that's a little heavy. Like if you were backpacking with that, you'd be like, it's a little heavy.
It's a thick, heavy piece.
But you could 3D print that and have like,
true.
Yeah. Not trying to steal your stuff, Jordan, but
fun idea though.
That's I tend to wrap my duct tape around like a pencil.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of having a whole bunch of options there.
That's cool. Yeah, it's a fun one.
That came in the mailbox.
A lot of unique stuff.
Yep.
I like what they do.
Also, we owe the good people a follow-up, Austin.
Oh, yes.
Where are your Knipex?
Yeah, I got them. Yeah.
So there we were. A week ago?
Yeah.
We said, let us carry our Knipex pliers, ratcheting pliers, for a week.
Yeah.
How did it go?
I will be frank, I don't think I used them once. Yeah, I carried them almost every day. There was a point, and I'll let Ben tell this, but there was a point where maybe someone lost theirs, and so I kind of called it off for a day or two.
I lost mine on day one.
Well,
I like jumped in my truck, so I put them in my fifth coin pocket, and it turns out the fifth coin pocket here is a little loose on this pair of shorts.
Sure.
And they fell right out.
Yep.
And I had ridden my bike that day, and I had driven my truck, and I'm like, they gone.
Yeah.
And I happened to find them right between the seatbelt and the seat, and they're back. And I'll be honest, though, I did not find a good way to carry these, and I never missed them in my pocket.
Yeah.
So if you're carrying Knipex, let us know what you're doing with them.
I think I got a good way to carry. This is a Pacific Northwest Bushcraft PNWB little pouch, just like an EDC pouch that I threw an O pen in there.
Yeah.
So I was happy with the carrying system, but just didn't really find the use
Is the
for
O
it.
pen like an O-Light pen?
No, it's not a light. It's a double-sided
is it from
pen.
O-Light,
It is
though?
from O-Light. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So they've got a bolt action pen, and then if you go the other way, a pencil tip comes out of that side.
With an infinite pencil, is that?
It's not an infinite one. They give you refills actually, but
Okay.
I think it's just graphite.
That's cool.
But yeah, it just screws in and out. And
Does it have any toothpick or tweezers on it?
unfortunately, no. So I would call it a lesser product.
Have you considered the Sancho pen
I have.
with toothpick and tweezers?
But maybe I'm calling for a mini version because
Oh,
that's a little
touche.
little XL in there.
The problem with the mini version Sancho
Yeah.
is they don't make mini Bics.
I know.
And I thought, well, why don't we just cut them? And I'm like, that would be the world's worst mess.
Probably messy. Yeah.
Hugely messy. Because I thought about it. A mini Sancho pen would be super fun.
And we're going to read a couple of comments here. This first one is from Maelstrom of the Mind, perhaps. Make the little Lulu without the red micarta liner now, and later make a premium version with the red liner and call it the little Oolulu la la when liners become a part of your repertoire. Whoa, lots of great words in there.
I enjoy that.
Yes.
Even the username.
I know.
I like that idea as well.
Yeah.
This is coming from Al, the science pal, who we needed on this episode.
Dang, if
Al,
we ever
where
needed a
are
science
you?
guy.
He says, didn't know Ben was an eagle. Me too. My project was building a bunch of bat houses for my county.
Oh.
Bat houses. Is that like the, what's the Batman, the Bat Cave?
Yeah.
Is he actually...
Maybe he's disguising it. Maybe he's a...
Wait a minute. Al stands for Alfred. He is... Do you see it all connected?
My word.
It's all there.
Science. Oh, it's all there. This is amazing. Ryan Burrow 231, question on the add-ons for Kickstarter. Will Mexican Blanket G Carta scales be available to buy separately at some point after release? Love you guys and what you're doing.
The answer is no, not at all. We have decided that the Mexican Blanket G Carta will not be available after the Kickstarter. So by the time this video's out, those will be gone forever.
Yep.
However, I could see us doing like G Carta Mexican blanket especial, which is a different type of G-Carta, but the Mexican blanket, pure Mexican blanket, will not be coming back.
There you go.
So. This is from MJ1653. Would love to see another run of the Mars-themed lander with the "My battery is low and it's getting dark" pocket clip from the Mars Opportunity rover. I'm always checking the secondary market for that specific lander and can never find one. That's one of the interesting things. Scarcity in products is both good and bad, right? You can't get the Mexican blanket scales. You can't get the specific Mars Opportunity rover scales again.
Yep.
But it's fun, I think that's part of hunting and collecting.
Right. That's why the drop model works, right? Is because it's one and done oftentimes. But I'm just always happy to hear, like, sometimes I'm not sure if a unique model like that will do well. So I like when people are like, oh, I actually really missed that one. I'd like to come back to it. Timothy Volker's here. Is there any new news on the Lander 5? I'm a Kickstarter supporter and wondering if there's anything new going on.
Yeah, that's a great question. We send backer updates about once a month when we're in the middle of a Kickstarter campaign. So we sent one last week talking about how we'd gotten the tooling samples in. So the new news is the project is moving forward. We just put in the biggest PO of our entire lives when it comes to units.
Yep.
And so, Lander 5 is moving forward. So if you are a Lander 5 backer, watch your email because we send updates when we have updates.
That's right.
So the answer is project is moving forward, and we're a little behind timeline. We're probably looking at more of October than our original September timeline.
Okay. Good update.
Okay. Should we finish this off, Austin?
Let's get back to Google.
Okay. The final countdown on the Google
Final
machine.
4.
I'm struggling with these.
It's okay. You did such a good job.
Thank you.
How are knives measured? Is that what that says?
How are knives measured?
I don't know.
You don't know?
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Yeah.
I think what they're talking about is blade length. So if you go to the American Knife and Tool Institute, they have a protocol for measuring knife blade length. Yeah. Now, their protocol has the knife measured from the tip of the blade, this is the large Lulu, to the foremost point of the handle. So this one would be sitting right at about 4 inches.
Yep.
And they say you should to the 1/8 of an inch measure down.
Okay.
Round
down.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's how you measure a knife. Now, the thing that I've always been curious about, and we have decided at Knafs how we measure knives, so your cutting edge here is from here to here. They don't give a lot of guidance on finger choils in the measuring.
Okay.
And so we've decided that we will measure blade length from the edge of the final edge of the cutting edge to the tip. And so your little Lulu would be 1 7/8 rounding down.
Yeah. So kind of your plunge line to your tip if you've got the finger choil.
Yeah, because if you went to the hilt or the beginning of the scale.
Yeah, you're measuring a lot of non-cutting surface there, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's how you measure a knife.
Right on.
Thank you to the American Knife and Tool Institute.
Yeah, that's definitely, especially when I started here at Knafs, I use that frequently. Like you said, we've adjusted a little bit since then. But
next up, how often do knives?
Big reveal. 3, 2, 1.
All right.
Let's go. What does it say? How often do knives need to be sharpened? Depending on how often you use them.
How often do you need to change your brakes?
There you go. Boy, should we talk about oil changes really quick, guys? Because boy, do we have some advice for you.
Jamie's rolling his eyes
I know.
behind the camera. Jamie did not want to film today. We got grouchy Jamie today. He's scowling at me.
Oh, man.
The answer is whenever they're dull.
Yep.
However, I like to tell people that often you can strop and get your knife edge back to hair shaving sharp without having to sharpen.
Totally.
What is stropping? Shall we grab a strop,
Let's
Austin?
do it.
Will you snag one for me? We're here. We might as well.
Thank you, sir.
So stropping is when you're honing that microscopic edge of the blade. So stropping, we saw a strop, you're basically going here, 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 back and forth, back and forth. And a lot of times what that will do, it's almost like polishing the hull of a boat, right? It's going to make it cleaner through the water. You're doing the exact same thing to the edge of your blade. Now, if it's worn down a lot, that's when you're going to want to sharpen to bring that edge back.
Yep.
So if stropping does not get it back to hair popping sharp, it's probably time to sharpen. One way you can test that, I like to test it on my arm hair.
There you go. I can hear that it's working.
That feels like a Jared Neves move right
there.
there. I didn't know that one was sharp. I must have handed that one off to Keith.
Really good. Yeah, that's a nice one.
Sorry, let me just put this gross arm hair on the floor.
Keith is the best. That's okay. we won't talk about it. Let's talk about brakes instead. Anyway.
Next up, when were pocket knives invented?
Oh, the only thing that I've ever heard that's totally just a myth is like oldest tool sort of thing.
Oh, interesting. Now that would be what do you define as a pocket knife?
Pocket knife, good question.
I'd put a pocket knife as a folding.
Folder.
Yeah.
See, I might classify it as something you can carry in your pocket, so it would have to have a sheath
Okay.
at least. But I don't know how to do it.
I don't know that there's a right answer.
Yeah.
I think if it's in your pocket, it is a pocket knife. But check this out. This is the Hallstatt knife from Austria, found 500 to 600 BC. Is a folding knife. They reconstructed it here, so it would have had blade here and then a wooden portion there.
Okay.
But that was 500 to 600 BC in Austria.
They made folding knives.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And then there are some Roman folding knives out there too. Kind of this concept of like people were interested in having a smaller knife in their pocket.
Yeah, and something that hides the blade, right?
Yeah.
Like that makes perfect sense.
Yep.
It's a guard. So
Yeah.
that's super cool.
Last but not least, this one made me chuckle.
All right.
And all of you who head on cruises.
Are pocket knives allowed on cruise ships? Whoa. Talking to a guy who's never been on a cruise
I've never
before.
been on a cruise either, but I know
Yes.
how to Google things.
What do we know?
Despite the fact that I didn't Google brake rotors before we started. Carnival Cruise Line, biggest cruise line in the world. Carnival Cruise Line prohibits weapons, illegal drugs, and certain items that could interfere with the safe operation of its ships. All weapons and any item made, adapted, or intended for use as an offensive weapon. That includes firearms. It includes knives, scissors, and open razors. However, you can bring recreational dive knives, but they have to be held in custody of guest services manager. You can't bring skeen-doos, which are the Scottish like dirks that they put in their socks.
Okay.
Which makes me think like, did a lawyer write this, or did somebody show up to a Carnival cruise in a kilt?
Yeah, was this by cause, right? Like,
Yeah.
who showed up with what?
Because they're like, no, it's not a knife.
Yeah.
And it's a skeen-doo. And they're like, what's a skeen-doo? I had to look up how to pronounce that, by the way.
It's not in your policy. That means I get through with it.
That's me. And then they're like, put it in the policy.
Yeah.
No skeen-doos.
Yeah, no skeen-doos.
No men in kilts
unfortunately.
with their skeen-doos.
No.
This is the entire list. You cannot bring a lot of things
Wow.
on a cruise.
Do they have like metal detectors on cruise
I
ships?
think you have to go through a metal detector is what I was reading online.
Okay.
You can't bring hookahs or alcohol,
knew
large
the alcohol
coolers. You
thing.
can't bring candles and incense, folding bicycles, surfboards, boats,
Oh,
canoes.
dang.
Like you cannot bring your folding canoe on a cruise ship.
But you can bring your dive knife if you check it.
You got to. Yeah.
That's all right.
Highly interesting. Let us know if you've ever been on a cruise and if you were able to get your knife on board, just for future reference.
Like that, maybe?
Yes.
That's how you might get one on.
By the way, while we're talking about cruises, can we talk about our friends over at KnifeWorks?
Sure.
It's one of our retailers down in Louisiana. They went on a cruise once. Roger took his entire crew on a cruise.
Okay.
So 7 or 8 people. Took them all. They go on a cruise, and they were on the boat that broke down in the Gulf of Mexico.
No way.
Yes.
Oh.
It broke down, and they were stuck on this boat for like, it was supposed to be like a 5-day cruise. They were on it for like 8 or 9 days.
Holy cow.
And the entire thing like stopped working, like no lights. The sewage was like in the hallways and stuff. Like it was bad. So
That's a nightmare.
just be careful when you go on a knife
Book a
cruise.
cruise. Yeah.
Guys, thanks for watching today. If you like this, definitely subscribe. Let us know in the comments what kind of unhinged things we did today that need reprimanding, and we will try to read all the comments. We'll see you next week.
See you then.